Alright, so here we go in Tongyeong, Gyeongsangnam-do, South Korea. Way across the water, the road, the water there. You see that Fortuna motel or hotel. Just to the left of that, about where that left pole, exactly where that left pole is at, behind that left pole is where I'm going to be, those apartments right behind that left pole. Now how am I going to cross this water? Now there is a bridge there and I could go there, but there's an easier and older way, and it's pretty cool history. It's kind of an interesting path. It's so hot and humid during the day down here in Tongyeong. Summertime, it's end of July. We've been very fortunate, even though it's the rainy season, to not have a whole lot of rain, but we have most definitely had hot and humid weather. But right now at night, it's nearly midnight. Seafood processing something or other there. They're everywhere here. Seafood is a big industry in Tongyeong here. My oldest brother-in-law has quite a successful seafood business going on here. And my oldest sister-in-law and my mother-in-law, they co-own a pretty successful Korean spa, and that's the direction I'm going. Matter of fact, my mother-in-law's apartment is just the other side of the street of the Korean spa. But I'm gonna cross the water without a bridge. Now, this is one of my common running routes whenever I run in Tongyeong, but I'm not running tonight. I think it's one more block up where I gotta cross over. Red cross indicates the location of a church. There are many churches here in Korea, which is a good thing. There's a Buddhist temple over there. And while I appreciate the prevalence of churches around, because I'm a believer, I appreciate the aesthetics of Buddhism more. Now, you take the big old cathedrals in Europe, they may rival the aesthetics of Buddhism in Korea, but there's just something about a Buddhist temple and the paintings and the selection of location, they just get to me. So, the artistry, the aesthetics, architecture, all that good stuff of Buddhism, I do appreciate that more. So that is in Chinese. Oh, actually, I take that back. I don't know. That may be in kanji. It may be in Japanese, or it may be in Korean. Or I'm sorry, definitely not Korean. Maybe in Japanese or Chinese, or a combination of the two. I am ignorant on that. However, this is a tunnel, an underwater tunnel that connects one side of Tongyeong to the other side. And it's almost midnight right now, by the way. And there's no danger whatsoever me walking around by myself. I mean, probably people are more likely to be scared of me if they see me walking around this time of night. I'm the threat. Not that I really am, but that I am perceived probably to be more of a threat than any other person around. This, in general, this time of night, probably especially. So there are some Chinese letters, looks like to the left, but then on the right side there, you see some Hangul, some Korean letters. And what does it say? It says tunnel, which is basically a Hangulization. It's a Koreanization of the English word tunnel. And that's what we're going into, a tunnel. Underwater tunnel. Now, I don't know the engineering behind this. I'm sure some people who may be watching this very much understand it. I don't know if this tunnel, I don't know if underwater tunnels actually go through the water. I don't think they do. My instinct is to assume that they go under the ground, like under the seafloor, under the water. They completely go under the water. That would be my assumption, but I don't know 100%. There may be variations between these, these kind of underwater tunnels. Maybe some do, maybe some don't. I really am ignorant on that. But the cool thing about this tunnel that goes underwater, whether through the water or under the bedrock, the ground under the water, this is the oldest underwater tunnel in all of Asia. And the Japanese actually managed this project whenever they held Korea as a colony back in the early 1900s. And here's some cool informational things about the history of the tunnel. We're at the bottom of the tunnel right now, the trough of the tunnel, you might say. Got some pictures, history about it here. Becoming a little bit more modern there. So they do have bridges that span this waterway, but this is a bridge that goes under the water, the very same waterway, and it's only a walking path now. I think back in the day, as you might have glimpsed in those pictures, the Japanese built it to transport trucks, to transport things, goods, what have you. But now it's merely a footpath. Maybe bicycles can come through it, I don't know. Perhaps bicycles, but no vehicles. Now I'm beginning my ascent. And where I come out here at the ascent, it's only, probably 2 or 3 blocks at most from where my mother-in-law lives and where their sauna is. The name of their sauna is Napoli Jesus Sauna. Napoli, which is the Italian word for Naples. In English, we call it Naples, Italy. But in Italian and in Korean as well, they call it Napoli. It's called Napoli is in the name because Tongyeong, the city, is often compared to the Italian city of Naples, geographically and aesthetic-wise. And then Jesu Napoli Hesu Sauna, the Hesu part, means seawater, because the spa is salt water. All the hot tubs, the cold pool, they are all salt water. They're not fresh water. And Unjang, even my wife, she's not clear. I don't know. We're not clear on whether they bring in the salt water from the ocean and filter it, or if they just have fresh water, like filtered fresh water, and then they add salt to it later. I don't know which they do. But in either case, it is salt water. The water in the spa is salt water. And then the last word, sauna, is just the Hangulization of our English word sauna. So Napoli, Naples, Hesu, seawater or salt water, more properly seawater, which is salt water. Sauna, sauna. Now, having said that, when we think of sauna, we think of a steam room, right? Just more specifically, a room with steam where you sit with the towel around your waist, your lower parts, and you sit and you sweat. But in Korea, they tend to use the word sauna, or as they say it, sauna, more as we use the word spa. So it's more of a spa as we would imagine it, because it has cold pools, hot pools, and steam rooms, and showers all together. They call it a sauna. We would more properly call it a spa. But having said that, it's not really exactly like any spa that we would have in the States. It's still a bit different. One of the biggest difference being is that although you have a male side and a female side, both sides are completely birthday suited up. They're naked. You don't wear Speedos, you don't wear swimming trunks. You're naked. And that's normal. If you went into one of these places with a Speedo or swimming trunks or anything, you'd be looked at like you're weird. Naked is the expectation. And it's kind of cool. It's kind of what's the word? It's kind of equalizing. It equalizes you. DS25 Mart, convenience store. One of the many prolific franchises of convenience stores. Almost back. Got about, actually, if you see that tall building right there ahead, that is my mother-in-law's apartment building. So we're almost there. I love this so much. Korea is so it's so great. Just even the simple thing, just a midnight stroll along a city such as Tongyeong is beautiful. Now this city, most residents of this city, Tongyeong, they would consider themselves as relative country folk among Koreans at large. However, Tongyeong has about probably 300 to 350,000 people. So this would be a pretty bona fide city in the US. But because Tongyeong, like proper cities, or I'm sorry, Korean proper cities are so stinking huge, and over half of the entire South Korean population lives in the Seoul metropolitan area. Seoul is the capital city, and that metropolitan area I mean, compared to that, then yeah, Tongyeong is relatively provincial in our terminology. Right there is Napoli Jesu Sauna, my in-laws' spa, and then right there, one of those windows. They actually, her apartment faces the sauna. It's right there on that face is my mother-in-law's apartment. Almost there to the entrance. I wish I would have done videos like this during the 7 years I lived in Korea, because I could have shared a lot more of the things I love about this place. However, being here for 2 weeks on vacation, I'm just trying to get as much real, authentic video and content as I can. But this is all just a glimpse of my 7 wonderful years in Korea. Some of which I really wish I could have shared with you. Some of which, yeah, is better left undocumented for sure. Koreans are rather vain. And for that reason, I kind of fit in a little bit more than I know that I should. Mirror. On either side of the elevator, who do you find most disgusting of all? A lot of mosquitoes. The mosquitoes here are smart. They know to gather in and around the elevator where people will be. 10th floor. Rather hot. It's a bit hot. It's so humid right now. I'm sweating in the elevator. I feel it dripping down my back. Nine, 10. Tongyeong입니다. Yeah, the elevator always tells you what floor you're on. This is 10th floor. Tongyeong입니다. All right, I'm not gonna show the code on this, so over and out.